Hey there, Vernacular Faithful. Redcoat here, and I'm going to be talking a little bit more about the philosophy of play. Now, just to recap, play is built out of four elements: recognition, uncertainty, adaptation, and experience. I've previously talked a bit about recognition in more detail, so now I'm going to talk about uncertainty. Now, in the original book that we're kind of deriving this philosophy off of, Uncertainty was uncertainty's place was held by the word chance. And certainly that word serves kind of a purpose, because definitely one of the things that makes any form of play, any form of game interesting is that question of, can I win? How what are the odds of me winning? What are the odds of me losing? And the fact that that question isn't answered easily. In fact, the rumination on that question is the engagement that is generated from uncertainty. It's specifically you thinking about the different outcomes that could appear, and identifying them as either positive, negative, or neutral to what you're doing. Now, the reason why I shifted it from chance to uncertainty is because of the connotations of the word. Now, chance has a connotation of lack of control. This idea that, oh, a thing just happened by chance. So, rolling a dice, drawing a card, or looking to the sky and suddenly a star falls down. You had no control over that. You couldn't predict that. That is chance. However, the fact of the matter is a similar tension, that similar idea of trying to understand what's going to be good and what's going to be bad and what might not change anything at all. The tension that's built up from that and the engagement that's built up from that isn't just generated from situations that you don't have control over. It's generated from situations that you don't have the ability to fully understand. And so uncertainty isn't just from rolling the dice or random number generators, but it's also from dealing with other people. Like if you bring another person into the combat such that they are your opponent, it for the fact that you have not lived their life, for the fact that you are not them, there are a myriad of aspects that you cannot know with regards to how they're going to make a decision or what decisions they're going to make. And so this creates an element of uncertainty where you're like, well, I don't really know who they are or how they work. So they could do this, or they could do that, or they could do this. Um, and so one of the things is when the result of the play comes from your response to their actions, that creates an uncertainty that you actually engage with. Now, stepping away from that for a second, this is in general, you also have uncertainty with other things that are predictable if you understand them enough. I mean, basically anything that is sufficiently complex will start to become random, to your mind just because you can't hold all the information with regards to it. And so even if you understand how it works and how it functions, there's still elements of how it would move or work that you can't fully predict. For instance, you can know how a hurricane forms and how it functions, but you can't really predict where it's going to go. Like, you know that it's got that cold, that's hot and cold drafts that cause the spinning and everything. But with with the myriad of other factors, including whether it actually makes landfall, where in the ocean it starts, the tide, the shift of the tides in the ocean, the actual water table, well, not the water table, but the water in the air, and shifting densities, and all of these other factors, uh, you can't really predict where it's going to go. But, well, I should say, you can't predict with 100% certainty where it's going to go. You can kind of give a guess, though. And that's where the other aspect of the engagement with uncertainty lies, is weighing the information that you do have with regards to a particular thing that you're not fully certain you're going to get the answer to, and then making an educated guess. And tension builds when you make that educated guess and act on it. And so that's a natural pattern that is repeated over and over again in any game that has uncertainty at its core. Is here's the scenario, here's the information you do have, here's the outcome that you're looking for, here's some outcomes that you don't want. Figure out which one is most likely and make a decision based on that. And in games where you have a little bit more control, it's not just figure out which one is most likely and make a decision based on that, but create the scenario that makes that situation more likely and act on that. And this, as you might expect, works in tandem with adaptation very well. However, and it works with and informs adaptation, but it also works with and informs recognition as well. Because for one to actually analyze a situation that they are uncertain about, they have to be able to recognize it, understand it, see what it is. And that gets increased tenfold when you're dealing with another person who is recognizing the fact that you're recognizing them and trying to obfuscate the signals and signs that they're sending out to you, so that you make an erroneous decision with regards to the uncertainty of what they would do in a particular scenario. So that's one of the things. And I should note that that tension of, I don't know what's going to happen, but I've got a pretty good sense of the percentages around this. I've got a pretty good sense of this here is going to go in this way. That's the tension that gamblers look for. Why gambling is so addictive, particularly in scenarios where in reality you don't have that much control, but because of set theory, where you play a game enough times and certain results tend to arrive, you get kind of an illusion of control and an illusion of an understanding of when things are going to happen. And so you still get some of that positive engagement when something goes right, because you feel like you had some control over that, or at the very least you feel like you had a strong understanding of what was going on, and that's why you won, even though in reality you had no control over it. It was just chance. Now, with all of that said, that's uncertainty in a nutshell. To kind of wrap this up, the basic idea is that uncertainty creates positive engagement through the person approaching the scenario, weighing the pros and cons, and ultimately making a committed decision based on their assessment of what is possible and what they think isn't possible, and what could and what should happen. And so it's a very analytical thing. And one other note of this is that this doesn't have to happen in a, how would I say, in a way that someone that you would personally perceive. It's very possible that this assessment of the uncertainty that's happening is an instinctual thing, and you just feel the benefits of it, particularly in any high risk scenario, such as skiing or snowboarding or the like. There's always a little bit of uncertainty with regards to, can I do this? Will I be able to land this properly? And every time you go towards a ramp, that uncertainty ratchets up the tension. That starts getting your body starts preparing for dealing with what's going to happen next. But there's also that tension in your own head of, can I do this? And then the resolution of that tension when, after hitting the ramp, let's say you intended to do a flip and you're like, well, I'm not sure if I can do a flip, but I've practiced enough. I know how to turn my body. I know how to flip my weight. I've got a fairly strong sense of how to land. So I should be able to do this. And so you build up the tension, you get the conviction and confidence to do it. And then you go, you land the trick, tension is resolved. And now you get to recognize yourself as somebody who can do that flip. Now, I haven't said anything about the adaptation aspect of that. Um, I've just talked about the thinking process of, can I do this? I'm doing this, which is the experience part, I should say. And then I've done it. Hoorah! So that's the principle of uncertainty with regards to play. And it's very important for games. And I should also note that this is why we value novelty so much. One of the reasons we value novelty so much, because then we get to engage with the things on that angle, even for something like a movie, where the reason we value the novelty of it is like, well, will I like it? Will I not? I'm not sure. I guess we'll have to find out. Let's go watch. And particularly if you're pleasantly surprised by what happens in it. And that's the other thing is, it's not just, can I do this positive or negative? It's also, did something unexpected happen? And that in of itself creates a pleasurable experience of, you came up with all of these odds, all of these different things that could have happened. And it's like X, Y, and Z, but Omega is what happened. Something you didn't even have a concept of, and that expands your world. Suddenly, there's a whole new host of things for you to consider, and you start engaging with this new world, because something that you didn't expect, you never thought could have happened, did happen. And so that's one of the reasons why surprise is such a cool thing. Why a surprise party is more valuable even. I mean, granted, a surprise party doesn't necessarily expand the breadth of the world that you're going to be looking into, but at the same time, it's still just like, I had all of these things there. Oh, didn't expect that. Although even there, just the fact that that happened, it does create some engagement, because then you're thinking, well, how did they set that up? And man, they liked me enough to do this in secret. I'm so happy that they did that. And it's also a statement of the amount of care and effort that's been put into doing this thing, because there's a lot of organization and everything like that. So um, there's a large amount of positive engagement that comes from being pleasantly surprised, or emphatically surprised. And there's also something to be said for the negative surprises, where if you are able to accept the negative thing that comes out of it, you still get a new world to explore, where you said X, Y, and Z. and alpha happened instead. And they're like, I didn't understand this nearly as well as I thought I did, but now I want to. What did this show me? And so that creates a different form of engagement. And that idea of play and failing and learning from failure, that's the uncertainty element is a part of that. And this is one of the things for playing healthily is one needs to be able to positively resolve the tension from both winning at its uncertainty and losing at uncertainty. Because at the end of the day, all of it is data. All of it is information that expands your world, and it's all information that you can engage with and understand better so that you can adapt. And that's probably going to be the next section that we talk about. Anyway, that's all I really have to say about uncertainty. I hope I've given you some cool information here. So if you do like what I said, I guess go ahead, thumb up or thumb down the video or whatever positive thing that you're doing on whatever platform I put this up on. But thank you for taking the time to listen to me rhyme. Although I've only rhymed once in this entire video. This is Redcoat, signing off. Play the games you want to play, boyos.